Oftentimes, if you have a concern about your child, voice that concern, but voice it in a way that is conducive to keep the conversation going. Instead of making it about the situation, talk about what it is that's happening and how it's impacting your child. Give examples of different things that might be happening or things that you're seeing as the parent. Some of you might not have gone through the eligibility process for special education, but you suspect something's going on. You have the right to ask. Just ask for your child to be evaluated because you have a suspicion that your child may need extra help. And the schools will work with you to go ahead and evaluate your child. They'll do a comprehensive evaluation, meaning they will look at all the areas where you suspect something may be going on. They'll collect data on that. They'll do tests, and they will come together and share all that information with you to make sure that you understand what has happened and what's going on. Definitely use that as an opportunity to have a conversation with the child teacher and get consent. You want to make sure that you are involved. Once you are seeing that you have that collaborative relationship, you do make every opportunity to work together. And that just means your child is going to get everything, all the education that the other children are getting to the fullest extent possible, so that at the end of the day, you're making sure that they're moving along the educational journey at the pace and rate that they should be, according to what's in their plan. These are strategies that they can actually try to see if there's improvement, or could have a behavior intervention plan. And part of that intervention plan is time with the behavior specialist or time with a paraprofessional, because it is a restrictive service. And by law, they have to make sure that your child is accessing the environment to the fullest extent possible on their own. And if they're going to assign a one-on-one to provide that level of support to your child, they're going to need to see a definite trail of data indicating that is necessary. It could be having that support in one or two classes or certain times of the day, and compare that support of having a one-on-one to not having a one-on-one within the time frame of the day. That is also data. Now, know that going to the doctor's office and advocating there or to the hospital is very similar. You still have to make sure that your voice is heard. You still want to make sure that your questions are being answered. And it can get to be a little bit more overwhelming, because unless you are very familiar with the terms and the medical terminology, it can get overwhelming. I know it has for me in the past. The important thing for the person to make sure that the parent understands, make sure that we understand all that jargon, but they're not going to know what we know versus what we don't know, which is why it's so important to ask. When you're in a special education meeting, they use a lot of acronyms. At the doctor's office, they use a lot of acronyms there too. So when they're using terms or acronyms or things that you're not familiar with, go ahead and ask the questions, and then ask for paperwork on that. I've been to the doctor's office and they've talked about conditions or medications. They've talked about things that I didn't understand. Today, you can ask, can I have some paperwork on that? And they will go pull from their medical journals something that is easier for us to understand, that we can read on our own time and make ourselves more familiar, so that when we do have more questions, we can go back and ask those questions. Another thing that I like nowadays is a lot of the healthcare systems have online communication. So there's a platform that they've created where you can log in, you can communicate with your doctor. Let's say you go in and you've heard some things and you had a lot of questions. You can go back, read your paperwork, and ask your questions through chat. And they can usually respond to you in that way. If need be, you can always set up a time to have a call with them. There's lots of different ways that you can get in touch with your educator or your healthcare professional. You can talk through those chats. You can talk through emails. You can talk through a phone conversation. You can even do Zooms like we're doing tonight, when you have a conversation with your doctor or your child's teacher or the doctor's assistant to answer your questions. But the most important thing is to make sure you understand. And I know at every appointment, once a year, they give us this HIPAA form that talks about our rights and our privacy. And it's important to understand that when you get those, take the time to read it. I know it's a lot, but it's important to make sure that we understand it for the sake of being able to have our needs met and have our child's needs met. Again, build a collaborative relationship with your child's doctor. Make sure that you're clearly communicating your concerns or asking your questions, and then advocate for your child's needs. You know what your child needs. A doctor may be recommending something that you as a parent know for your child that's probably not going to work, just like a teacher might do. It is okay for you to say, are there any other strategies? Are there any other things I can do to get that same result? Because I know my child probably would not respond well to that. Or if they have certain allergies, you want to make sure that you're speaking up on the allergies and making sure that those things are in the record. And if there are things in the record that need to be corrected, it's okay for you to make sure that that information is either added or removed. You want to make sure that those records are accurate at the school level and at the medical office too. So I'm going to take a little break here. I do have a couple of questions that are coming in, and I'm going to go ahead and respond to some of these questions. So I have Kim here who asked, I requested a behavioral assessment and tools to help improve behavior, and I was advised to give my daughter time to meet her goals, although the behavior is impeding on her goals. How can I get a personal paraprofessional and a behavior specialist? I understand the question to be that you're wanting more services for your daughter based on behaviors, and you're wanting a paraprofessional, a one-on-one to work with her, or a behavior specialist to work with her. Any services in special education are going to depend on data, as you well know, which is one of the things that you have here about the behavioral assessment. They're always going to go back to needing to see more data. But I will also say this, it doesn't have to all be at school. The data that you can include in that behavioral assessment, in her goals, the goals and objectives are not just for school. Those are things that you're working on at home as well. So if you feel like your daughter is needing more support, share the information that you're seeing at home. If you're seeing these behavior concerns in other settings besides the school, and tell them how you're managing that or how that is showing up in other areas. And if it's to the point where the behavior is impeding upon her meeting her goals, remember the IEP is a living, breathing document. It is something that they can try. These are strategies that they can actually try to see if there is improvement. To get a one-on-one paraprofessional or a behavior specialist, your daughter probably could have a behavior intervention plan. And part of that intervention plan is time with the behavior specialist or time with a paraprofessional. I'm not sure what grade level your child is in, but I know that schools are reluctant a lot of the times to do personal paraprofessionals or one-on-one because it is very restrictive service. And by law, they have to make sure that your child is accessing the environment to the fullest extent possible on their own. And if they're going to assign a one-on-one to provide that level of support to your child, they're going to need to see a definite trail of data indicating that is necessary. And sometimes it does take time to implement the strategies. And as we all know, sometimes things get worse, especially when we're putting new strategies into place before they get better. So it's not that it's impossible, but I can tell you that the way that you're going to get a paraprofessional, a one-on-one or behavior specialist for your daughter is to have enough information that demonstrates this is necessary, because across all of these settings, we're seeing this, and this is what has helped in other places this is what we need here. We can try it out, collect data with her having it, and see how that impacts. And it doesn't have to be all day. It could be having that support in one or two classes or certain times of the day, and compare that support of having a one-on-one to not having a one-on-one within the time frame of the day. That is also data. I have another question here from Sharice. Hi, Sharice. My child is autistic. I was wondering, are there any housings, especially for special needs children in Illinois? Thanks. Okay, Sharice, that there are definitely places that are, we call them separate schools or residential facilities all around the country for children that have autism and have severe cases of autism. What you probably, I can give you our support email. I'm going to put that in the chat here, and that way I can talk with you a little bit more about some things that may be available in your area. I'm not sure of the age of your child, but you might want to start talking about to your child's school. That may be a good place to start, or even if you wanted to research, talk to a social worker at your child's school district. Social workers are able to provide services, supports, referrals. Mental health therapists like counselors can talk with you about things that your child may need, and you can find those services in your area. So those are two places to start. Start with your child's school, start with the social worker at the school and the counselor, and they can probably start referring you to places who can help you or connect you. If you have questions here tonight that you'd like to have more discussion on, we're happy to have those discussions with you and see if we can guide you in the right directions. Just email us at support@brightideacode.com. We'll set up a time to have a talk, and we'll try and get you to the resources that you need. So I've given you some strategies for effective communication, and I also want to talk with you about strategies for navigating insurance and accessing some of the benefits. I know a lot of parents have had issue with getting the right kind of insurance and right support, just like what you were asking about having behavioral support. I know parents are looking for supports in-home, not only at school. A lot of times these services are not covered in your insurance, in your health insurance. However, there are a lot of services. There are stipends that are available to supplement parents' incomes. That's across the U.S. A lot of parents don't know about that. There are also supports. There are also organizations that provide free services or respite services for parents who may need them for their child. So one of the things that I would recommend that you do, strategies for navigating these insurance and accessing services, don't be afraid to use the resources that are around you. When I mention social workers, a lot of parents shy away from that. Social workers are there as a resource. They are actually connected to the community. So what I would recommend is you have a conversation with the social workers within your community, or you can talk to your child's doctor about some of the services that you're needing. Your child's doctor can also refer you to other places that will provide some of the services that you're looking for. If you are looking for help with getting medical support, medical insurance, start with your local Department of Health. Your local Department of Health can guide you to where you can get support with filling out paperwork, with getting the right kind of coverages, with getting the right kinds of supports, even if they have to provide them there at the facility. So those, you can start with your social workers, go to the Department of Health, or sometimes even, it's called different things in different places, but the Department of Family and Children Services can also be a good resource for locating services for your child. Okay, and so this is where I kind of wrap things up. There's a lot here, but it looks like a lot, but it's not a lot to cover. We've talked about the strategies. We talked about all of these things as we were going through. I thought it would just be better to do it that way. We've talked about how you can build those relationships and not burn the bridges. We've talked about collaborating with the teams and how important that is. I've talked about how important it is for you to continue to try to keep these lines of communication open and to provide this support and services. It's not just for your child today, but it's for them as they get older. And the only way you're going to see the kind of change that you're looking for is if you continue to keep that line of communication open and work with the teachers. Some will be easier than others, but teachers see it the same way too. Sometimes some parents are easier than others. It just depends, but I know one thing, it works the best when everybody's working together. And then coming to things like this, staying informed and being empowered. We have so many different topics that we're going to be talking about. We have special guests who are going to be coming in and sharing their expertise. Some of the other topics we're going to talk about is how to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as a parent, a busy parent who's having trouble juggling it all, how you can make sure that you prioritize your health, because taking care of you is important for you to be able to take care of your children. We're talking about the development of your child. If you're questioning, is this where he or she should be at this age? We're going to talk about that. We even went to the recent Day of Play that ELCHC sponsored, and we did outdoor activities. We had science and STEM and how to get your child involved in those things, even at home. But the thing is to show up. When you hear about trainings like these, attend. There are good opportunities to connect with people. If you don't get the resource that you need here, we definitely refer you over to where you can get the help. So stay informed and be empowered and surround yourself with like-minded people. Most people want to do the best and do the right thing by you and by your child. So it's important to make sure that you're keeping yourself around those people. I've talked about the common barriers. And I don't mean to make light of them because I know it can be difficult to work with people sometimes. I also know that one other barrier that parents face is money. It's hard when you don't have the insurance in place and you don't have the finances in place. And sometimes you get pushback, like you were sharing about trying to get the one-on-one for your child, but behavior is the concern, and you're being told to just wait and let's give this an opportunity to work. But remember, you are a data source too. If you have other people, like maybe your child goes to community organizations and the behavior there, maybe you can get statements from those people about some of the things so that you can demonstrate that this is a concern. However, when your child has this type of support, you don't see it as much. That is also supporting your request for a one-on-one. If your child needs a one-on-one or whatever service your child needs, whether it's behavior support, speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, if they need transportation, a specialized type of transportation, if they need counseling services, all the services that you're looking for, you can't get pushback when you have demonstrated it, you've shown the data for it, and that is one of the main hurdles to overcome. But if you can justify it, you demonstrated you need it, and it has to be provided. Also, taking care of yourself. That is another topic that we're going to be talking about later on in this cohort. We're also going to be talking about money management, and we're going to be talking about housing and how to get into affordable housing. There's so many things that the coalition wanted to make sure that their parents were equipped with and knew about. We'll definitely be talking about some of these other topics later on in the process. Okay. All right. So we are coming up on the end of this presentation, and I hope this has been helpful for you all. Thank you all for being here tonight. And if there's anything else that we can do to be of service to you, don't hesitate to reach out.